Hello, baby.
Hello, nasty. Hello there.
Hello.
I say hello.
Hello, friend.
Well, hello, little girl.
Hello, my treacherous friends.
Hello, operator.
The beginning of everything.
Welcome back, my friends.
It's showtime.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 377 of The Brink of Sanity. Special guest for you today. We got Fred Joyal. He just wrote a book, Super Bold, From Underconfident to Charismatic in 90 Days. Check it out. It's in the top 40 on Kindle right now. So blowing up. How you doing, Fred? Thanks for joining us.
Fantastic. Great to be on the show, guys.
Yeah, very happy to have you here. Fred, are you best known for 1-800-DENTIST? You are the inventor of 1-800-DENTIST, is my understanding.
Yeah, and I was in about 100 of the commercials as well. So my voice is recognized from the radio and the TV spots, and sometimes they'll recognize my face still. I haven't been on there in a while, but for a long time they would go, "Are you the 800-DENTIST guy?" Which is, wouldn't even get me a seat in, a table in a restaurant, but, it was something. I'm a micro celebrity is what I'm saying.
That is all. I have to say, it's one of those ideas where, like, I'm sure everyone you told that, they're like, oh, why didn't I think of that? Like, it's just a brilliant idea. How did you end up?
It didn't seem brilliant. It seemed, for the first 2 or 3 years, it seemed really sketchy and risky. But eventually it got traction. But it was just, my partner and I, we had a friend who had the phone number. I was an ad man. I was working in an agency. And the guy with the phone number said, "I think you guys could turn this into a business." And we were young and naive enough to try it, basically. So
How did your friend, he just happened to register that? Was he trying to launch some kind of referral business, or why did he have?
No, he had some idea of that it could be a marketing tool. He did it when phone numbers, 800 numbers first came out in '79. So it rang to his house for 6 years.
Oh wow!
And yeah, but he was I wouldn't even call him a quasi entrepreneur, because I actually worked with him in a startup. So that was like a reverse MBA. He did everything conceivably wrong. He was exhausted by noontime. He was like, "Oh, that's enough for me." And so when he eventually said that, "I got this phone number, I think you could turn it into a business." And I said, "Well, I'm not working with you because you don't work." And he went, No, I understand. But just take the phone number and see if you can, make a referral service for dentists, right? He had the vaguest of notion of what it could be without any of the execution required. We had to invent every aspect of the business: how to answer the phone, how to set up a phone center, how to do and buy advertising, where to place it in the markets, how to track all this stuff. And of course, computers didn't even have hard drives at that point when we were starting. We were in the stone age of that sort of stuff. So, but it was a great enterprise. It just zoomed up at a certain point, and we made buckets of money and spent buckets and a half of money. So
That's awesome. Did you ever think about 1-800-lawyer, 1-800-fireman, or 1-800 just the other? I guess, did you ever think about expanding?
Yeah, we tried probably a half a dozen of them, and none of them worked. Lawyers, we figured out, we did 800 lawyers, and we figured out lawyers they lived up to their reputation of staggering dishonesty, and they would not pay us, right? They would say, "Oh, we didn't get any clients from you," and so we would say, "But you have a contract for 6 months," and they would say, "Fuck you, sue us," right? Because they had a lawyer, it was them. Right. And then we would call the people that we would refer to them, and they go, "Oh yeah, we got a case with the guy." And so they would it was like they were the old scorpion on the back of the frog story. It was like they were killing. They had to not pay us to punish themselves because they couldn't. The opportunity to screw us was too easy. So.
Wow.
And I'm actually, I have great lawyers that I've worked with in my business, so I'm smearing all of them with the same ugly brush, but there's tons of great lawyers out there, but the ones we encountered were snakes.
I guess you should have picked a more honest profession to go to. You're like, our next thing should be 1-800-rabbi, because then, the rabbis aren't going to screw you.
No, they're going to feel challenged to that. They're not going to pay top dollar, but but they're going to be
They
trying
might,
to trying
they
to
might
get
negotiate. Yeah.
right. Yeah, there's going to be some back and forth, right? But in the end, everybody's going to come out ahead, with God's blessing. So
Yeah. How
but
did
it's
sorry, I was gonna say what was the tipping point for 1-800 Dentist taking off? How did you get it to take it to the next level?
what happened was the move from we started in radio ads because that was really cheap to produce at the time. Producing a television commercial was expensive. You had to shoot it on film. There was no video version of making television commercials back then. So for $1,000, I could make a radio spot. So I could make 6 of them, test out which ones worked, use my own voice to record them, and then we would have media on there, and we did really well. But the cost per call, the lead generation, this was before lead generation was a term. We were generating leads for dentists, and it was pretty expensive on radio because we would have to buy drive time and stuff like that to be very cost effective, and we buy a lot of talk radio and stuff like that. So the transition was when we finally went to TV. And what I did is I found these recent college grads who had their film degree, and they were looking for something to put on their reel, as they say. And I said, great, I need 2 commercials for $10,000. And so they put everything together, put the crew. I wrote the spots. I eventually had to edit the spots because I had no idea how to edit. And they were home runs. 2 spots were they were bangers. They went for a year straight, just making the phone ring like crazy. And we just skyrocketed in membership and in calls. Everything would just spiral upward. So my partner and I went, oh shit, this is actually going to work, and we're finally in profit. And then our income just went in like quantum leaps for like 5 years straight. It was great.
What was the secret sauce in the commercial? What made the commercial so was there a memorable tagline or?
No, there wasn't. It was the fact that the number was memorable made it so we didn't have to say the number over and over again. So I could have a message, and it was really straightforward. That was the other thing. Every time we got away from being straightforward and got tricky and creative and stuff like that, the call numbers would go down. So it would basically say, if you're looking for a great dentist near you, we have the information, and we can match you with a dentist who you're really going to love going to. It was like that simple. And it was an operator sitting in a chair with a phone on her head, right? Not a headset on her head, not an actual phone on her head. That would have been too creative.
That would have gone too well.
And so that message, that simple message that we just played, because the beauty is, if they didn't need a dentist now, a year later or a month later or whatever, they remembered the phone number and they went like, oh yeah, I can just call these guys. Whereas most direct response advertising, you need 90 seconds. That's it. That's all the time you have to get a response. We had 90 days technically of half-life on the spots. So it was a whole different formula, and that's what worked.
No, that makes sense. You're like 1-800-555-TOOTH, or what was it? Dentist, you're not going to really forget. Do you get pissed at 1-800-Flowers for stealing your idea?
Oh yeah. I call them and hang up all the time. I rack up their phone.
You're like, I did dentist first.
Yeah, and then the mattress guys, they infuriate me. 800 mattress, that was totally a ripoff of me. Using an 800 number to sell stuff.
If it makes you feel any better, we used to prank 1-800 mattress during my lunch period in high school every day. So took up some of their time.
We had our share of teenagers pranking us too, believe me. So
yeah,
we're open game. So
they had that bold innovation of leaving off the last S for savings. So I don't know.
We asked them if they left off the last S for sex with their wife. That was our big joke in high school.
Did you what year did you sell 1-800 Dentist?
So 5 years ago, 2016. So.
Oh, okay. Did you have the website 1-800 Dentist also?
Yep.
Okay. I was going to ask if it transitioned to the internet because it seems like an obvious.
Actually, I'm embarrassed. That's a brilliant idea. We should have done that. That's so great that you bring it up now and shame me. Of course, we had it.
Yeah,
we
of
had
course.
it. We had it when websites came out. You know.
So hey, right before we started the show, Fred was telling us a little bit about dating during COVID. I would
Yeah.
love to hear about dating during COVID. I'm married. It would be unfortunate if I was dating during COVID. Jay here's been in a long-term relationship. I love to hear about dating during COVID. Tell us what's going on.
What's happened is the dating sites. I'm single now, so I'm in that arena. And dating is how you meet people. There's a certain group of people that will not date anyone that they didn't meet online. It's like a shift that went from, no, I want to meet somebody in person. I don't want to meet them online. No, they want to go through the checklist first. You know, what's your height? What's your, I want to see pictures of you. And I want, what's your religion, your political beliefs? Are you vegan? Like they want to check a bunch of boxes. Do you want kids? Do you smoke pot? Do you want kids who smoke pot? Whatever it is, right? They can be really specific about this stuff.
It's funny how the world has changed. I remember, like in college, this was before internet dating became a thing, because I'm old also. And I remember this one woman had met one girl had met her fiance online, and we were like, "That's so weird. You met someone online." And now, if you tell people you met offline, people are like, "You met in a bar at 2 a.m. What the hell's wrong with you?" It's completely reversed.
What do you know about those people? Right.
Yeah.
They could have been a vegetarian for all you know. Right. It's
right.
Like,
how do you know if they want to have 2.5 kids also? Come on.
Yeah. So, and now, of course, it's, are you vaxxed? Right. If you're not vaxxed, swipe left. There's all these things that they say.
Is that on the dating
how you
profile?
voted, right? Yeah. Oh yeah. If you voted for Trump, swipe left, or if you voted for Trump, swipe right. It was like they make it super clear, right, where the dividing line is on their sites. If you believe the election was stolen, swipe left, or if you believe it was swipe right. They want somebody aligned with whatever.
If you were storming the castle,
if
you were storming the castle on January 6th, swipe left.
Yeah. Right. Or call the FBI and turn yourself in. So,
so what's dating been like during COVID for you?
I mean, it's actually been really much more interesting. I remember when it first really happened, and I found it really difficult. But I've met some really terrific women. But it's sort of like an interview. It's a little bit like a podcast. That first date, it's like you're asking you're trying to ask penetrating, probing questions while also presenting a more amplified version of yourself than you're going to be able to maintain. Right.
Right. You're like, I'm not this interesting. So I hope your expectations go downhill from here.
Right, yeah. This is the big show, right? It's all reruns.
This is me trying. Yes.
Right.
So do you so how soon into COVID did you start dating? Like how far into did you start dating right in March, or were you worried about dating initially during COVID?
You're worried about where you go, right?
Yeah.
So it begins with this like a little texting exchange, and then maybe in COVID, then it turns into let's do a little FaceTime exchange, which a lot of people are uncomfortable with because a lot of people don't photograph well or video well. They gotta they need better lighting than Zoom will often provide. So, right. But eventually you end up someplace having. Some women will play it very safe. It's like, no, I just want coffee, right? Because they want to be able to bail. They usually set something up where their girlfriend's going to call them in 30 minutes, right? And so that they can answer it and go, oh, what? Oh my gosh! All right, I'll be right there, and they get the heck out, right?
Yeah,
been there.
But I was, and I was in this conversation. I was on a date recently, and we were talking about dating sites as it happened, and a lot of these like Hinge and Luxy and stuff like that. They're much more serious. They're about people looking for relationships and stuff like that. And she was saying, there's sites if you just want to have sex, there's sites for you like that you could use. She says there's one of them. There's one that's and she starts thinking about it, and she finally goes, Grinder. That's the site. And I went, I'm pretty sure that's a gay site, right? And she said, oh, no. It's for anybody, right? And I went, nah, you're not going to get me to try it, but because I'm pretty sure of what it is. And so she calls our waiter over, who she has earlier identified as gay, and had this long conversation about his piercings and stuff like that. And when she calls him over to get another drink, I go, hey, Grinder. What kind of site is that? He goes, oh, it's a total gay site. And she goes, oh, okay. Well, I got to stop recommending it. Yeah, I guess you do. But I mean, but there are sites as specific as you want, whether, you've heard of like Farmers Only and J-Date and all this stuff. I mean, it gets super specific, right? And which is kind of great. But interestingly, virtually all of them are owned by Match.com.
Huh.
So
I've heard that. I think it's just funny. Like I get like, oh, honey, I want you to meet a nice Jewish man. I want you like, but who says like, hey, honey, I need you to you have to meet a farmer or you're out of the fucking family.
Yeah, that's right. Right. We don't want any blue collar workers in this family, and certainly not any executives or lawyers or professionals. That's really going to ruin the bloodline. So stick to the farm, ladies.
You would think if anything, the site would be farmer for not a farmer. Like they'd be like, I want to go up in the world.
Yeah, right. It's like, yeah, there should be a box that's like, if you're actually a farmer, swipe left. Right?
Like, yeah. No, you're a farmer trying to meet a non-farmer. We don't put farmers together because no one wants that.
Yeah. One of my favorite lines that this woman wrote, because people misidentified themselves in various ways on their site, is she wrote, if you're shorter than you say on your profile, at least be funny.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Okay.
Which was perfect, right? She was like, I'm going to give you some play here to lie, but you got to bring it. You better be funny. So I thought that was just beautiful. Made her very appealing. So.
Well, you've done stand up and improv and stuff before, right?
Yeah, I managed. I dabbled in stand up. I did stand up for about a year, just to play on stage, and I did improv comedy for several years. With the Groundlings in Los Angeles. I trained in their school, and it was really during their heyday. It was a great time. I was good friends with Kathy Griffin and Lisa Kudrow and people and Phil Hartman. I wasn't good friends with Phil, but he was around at that time, and these were guys who were just super funny and just great to be around. And it really, when you do improv, you learn to really trust yourself in almost any situation, because you're basically working with no material, and just using the energy that performance can give you if you can find a way to stay relaxed inside, and then just and use various techniques to play off other people and build something funny. And also not be aiming for anything, just focus on the build of it. It's a fascinating process, and it gives you a life skill that transfers to so many other situations. I talk about that in my book, and there's several things integrated in my book on how to cultivate boldness and confidence, because there's exercises you do, there's things that you do that are going to build that for yourself that they don't teach us at all in school. They don't teach us great social skills or how to build our confidence or how to do any of that stuff.
How was Phil? I mean, Phil Hartman might be my all-time favorite cast member from SNL, or at least top 3 for me. How was Phil Hartman back then? Like, just I imagine you saw him perform a lot. What was he like back then?
He was the most generous, and he just loved the comedy. He loved the work. He loved doing the characters. I remember after a show, he was outside just talking to the audience members, just right on the sidewalk in front of the Groundlings. And he had come back. He was on Saturday Night Live. He had come back to just do a show in a 99-seat house just because he loved the Groundlings so much. And he stood out there and talked to us. And he was talking about having met Frank Sinatra, and he with all the Sinatra, impersonations that he had done on Saturday Night Live, and he just talked about that conversation. He says, "I'm secretly in awe of Sinatra, but I'm trying not to like get on my knees and kiss his ring and stuff like that. But at the same time, trying to tell Sinatra's going, oh, are you sure that's funny when you say that to me? But he was just." And his wife was across the street yelling, like, "Come on, we're supposed to go eat." And he's like, "Yeah, honey, just in a minute. I want to tell these guys." It was just like, he was so open and so generous with the people that made him famous. He loved being funny. And then I knew people that were on the show with him, and they said he was the anchor. He was the core of that show. You could always count on him to deliver, and they could all work themselves around him. Yeah, he was a real tragedy when he went, the way he went. So
He was hilarious. Were the other, like you said, Kathy Griffin, Lisa Kudrow, could you tell certain people were just like amazing back then, or?
You actually couldn't tell who was going to break. Because they were all so strong that it was just the success almost was random how it just happened. I mean, Lisa just stumbled into Friends she had so much training in creating characters that she created that beautiful Phoebe character in the audition, and they're like, they couldn't imagine anybody else doing that or anything fitting as good as that in the show. And it was just because she developed the chops, but they all had them. A lot of them are still working that I see, but very few have broken through like those guys. So
any of them that you remember that are still working that you're like, this person's brilliant and you should check him out, but he hasn't broken through. Like anyone you recommend us checking out?
There's a guy named Tim Bagley. He's been on what's the thing with Lily Tomlin, Grace, and Lily Tomlin and Jane Fonda.
Yeah, Grace.
Somebody in Grace, or
it's
but
a
not
Netflix
Will and
show.
Grace. Man.
Not Will and Grace now. Yeah.
But now that we're thinking Will and Grace, we're never going to come up with it. So, but he's
Grace
been
and
regular.
Frankie. Grace and Frankie.
There we go.
Yes, there we go.
Another one, Patrick Bristow, never really broke through, and he actually just popped up on the morning show, but pretty much a cameo, but just really gifted improv performer and comedian, and a great teacher too, because a lot of them taught improv. That's how they made money. That's how they survived, was teaching the improv classes as well as performing with the Groundlings. So Kathy Griffin was my first improv teacher.
Oh, wow. She was obviously done well for herself. So your book is called Super Bold, From Underconfident to Charismatic in 90 Days. I don't want to spoil your book, but can you give us some insight? How can we become underconfident? How are we going to become super bold? Some recommendations for us?
Well, the book lays out, it has a specific step-by-step method for how you do certain exercises to gradually build your boldness. And there are 5 levels of exercises in the book that start really simple, like smile at 5 people a day, and don't
Jay,
actually
smile, do this, Jay. You're gonna smile at 5 people, Jay?
I'm on it. I'm taking notes.
You're gonna get it? Okay, you better smile, Jay.
Yep.
Okay, next step for Jay. Come on, let's do this.
So the next step is to learn what bold people know, is that 99% of the time, nothing bad happens unless we tell ourselves that something bad is going to happen or is happening. right? Bold people don't get embarrassed or humiliated. They don't experience rejection. They don't worry about failure. They realize these are all steps, and there are choices on how to react to them. But one of the ways you do it is one of the exercises, for example, is to teach yourself that nothing bad happens. When you see an employees only sign, go in. Just go inside, walk right through, swinging doors or open the door, and you'll realize, because this part of you will go like, oh, I can't go in there. There's a sign that says employees only. You know what? The only thing keeping you out of that room is the sign, right?
Mhm.
And when you go inside, nobody's going to beat you to death. Most of the time, nobody's going to say anything because you looked at the sign and went in. So you're probably an employee.
What if
So
it says
they're not going to say anything.
What if it says fire exit? Should I open it?
Only if it doesn't say alarm will go
Yeah,
off.
the one with the alarms.
Sometimes
Because sometimes they don't go off. I've done that before. They don't go off.
that's a lot. Sometimes that's a total conceit. That's a trick. That's to save money on electronics. They just put a sticker on there.
It's
that
one of
says
the
alarm
great
goes off.
that great lie, and the other great lie in life is press the button to hold the door. It doesn't hold the door.
Or to
Or make
change
the door
the
closed.
change the crosswalk sign, or
Yeah. There's some lies in life, but okay. So, step one, Jay, smile at people. How long should Jay smile at people? Should he leer or just kind of smile?
No, leer is going to get a different reaction. Leer is step 2, right?
Okay.
Because you want to.
Because nothing bad will happen, actually. If you leer.
Right, because what you want is you want to fail. You're doing these exercises till you fail, so that you can realize that you don't have to take it on. If somebody doesn't smile back, it doesn't matter, right? They could be having the worst day of their life, or they could have something in their teeth or whatever. It doesn't. They don't. You're not trying to smile back. You're not trying to get a smile back. You're trying to flex your boldness muscle. You're trying to build it by not being concerned about the outcome. I am going to smile no matter what. I'm going to say hi to everybody, anybody I meet who's in front of me in the Starbucks line. Every time I'm in line, I'm going to say hi, and I'm probably going to compliment them on something they're wearing or something, right? And then maybe even introduce myself. It's all flexing the boldness muscle, and you realize you didn't die. If they didn't respond at all, you still didn't die, because you don't know what kind of headspace they're in. But hesitant people, underconfident people, they're sure that something terrible is going to happen, right? And so they don't speak up. And you know what? Hesitation is the opportunity killer. If I can drive one thing home on this podcast, it's that we miss out on relationships, opportunities, adventure, fun, key moments by hesitating, whether it's just to meet somebody new that could be the love of your life, or could be the boss you want to work for, or the connection, the mentor that you need, or let's say, in a more difficult sort of situation, one of your close friends has passed away, or a parent has passed away, and you don't like to speak in public. Oh, I hate speaking in public. I'm terrified of speaking in public. So you don't eulogize them. That is a terrible mistake that you will never get to undo. You will get one chance to do that. Nobody cares if you cry. Nobody cares if you're not articulate. All they will care about is that you stood up and said something. And all you're going to care about is whether you stood up or not and said something. And and life is full of those moments where if you hesitate, the moment goes away.
Jay,
that's what my book is about.
Jay, you're gonna eulogize me, Jay?
So I just realized you're assuming that I'm very underconfident.
I'm just using you as the third person on the show.
This
I
is
do
my
get what
first
you're
threesome in podcasting, so it's
No, but I think that's totally fair in the sense that, there's always times in life where I'm like, I should do this, and my brain's like, no, you shouldn't, moron. And I'm like, why are you arguing with me, brain? But Jay, does your brain do this?
Yeah. Also, just acting confident gets different reactions. I remember there was this one time I was at a party, and I had a few drinks, and I mistook this girl for somebody I was friends with, and I just ran up to her and I said, "Hey, how's it going?" And I didn't know this person at all, and the way I approached and was so friendly, I ended up getting her number, and I would not have if I was thinking in my normal headspace and overthought what I was going to say, and did the slow approach. Like, I definitely get what you're saying about just walking up and not really thinking about it and just saying hi.
Yeah, in the world of
Well,
dating,
and that,
especially, I would say the world of dating,
well, that's
especially. Yeah, go on.
that I want to capture that, because part of my subtitle is from underconfident to charismatic. Your confidence basically made you charismatic. Charisma is just exuding confidence. Charisma is just always acting or behaving and feeling like you belong wherever you are.
Mm-hmm.
And that draws people in. So I'm sorry, Mark, I wanted to jump in.
I was just gonna say, like, I feel like the world of dating, like when like you'd be in a bar and you want to talk to some girl and you're like, if I go up to her, there'll be a trap door and and everyone will laugh at me also, and like you imagine this like scenario, like all she'll say is no or go away. You'd be like, okay, cool, I'll like just go on to the next girl. There's a book about what is that book? Where this guy had this whole technique where like for hooking up with chicks, and the whole basically thing was like just be confident and just keep going up to girls, keep talking to them, and then at the end of the night it'll work out.
Yeah, it's the game, I think, is
the game. Yes,
it's called.
yeah,
and that's really it. It's just don't be concerned about the outcome, but because the outcome, if you don't do anything, is nothing will happen. You will guarantee failure, right? Whereas if you walk up to somebody and just say, hi, how are you? Then hi, I'm Jay, I'm Mark, whatever. And most people respond to that, especially if you don't act like you have this huge agenda. It's like you're just, being two humans together. I'm not advocating trying to, manipulate people or anything like that with your boldness and your confidence. I want you to act with integrity too, but this is about having a more fulfilling life by actually chasing your dreams, by being bold enough to do the uncomfortable stuff, which is where all the great things happen, is outside your comfort zone. So
again, not to ruin the book, but so step one is the smiling. Step two is say hi to some stranger, start a conversation. Where's it go from there?
So then you're going to start to do a little bit more chancy things. If you see somebody at a table sitting alone, let's say in a coffee shop, you're going to say, do you mind if I sit here? Now, you're assuming that they're going to say, I'm expecting somebody, or I'd rather sit alone, or something like that. You're anticipating a fail, right? Mm-hmm. You're deliberately doing that. And what's going to surprise you is that a shocking amount of the time they'll go, oh, sure, that's fine. And you just sit down. You don't start a conversation with them. You just sit down and do your stuff. Now, then you may say a little something, or they may say something to you. I've had hour-long conversations with people doing this, just because you approach it, you project a certain harmlessness because you're just trying to sit down. But also, if they said, oh, there's plenty of seats, why don't you go sit over there? I'll go, oh, yeah, I'll do that. I don't have to take it on. It doesn't have to stab me in the heart.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people write books based on, like, they'll be one way, they'll have an experience to get them to another way, and they'll write about it. Did you feel at some point in your life you felt you were underconfident and you took these steps and made you more confident? Did you use these tools in your own life?
Yes, this is all developed by me because I was painfully shy growing up. I mean, I couldn't ask a girl out. I couldn't make a phone call. I mean, I lost a job because they tried to give me an opportunity I was working in this machine shop, and they said, I was pretty aimless in my 20s. And so I would do any kind of job. And the boss said, you got real potential. Come in. I'm going to give you an office and a phone. I'm going to give you this list of all of these people. Call them and see if they want to do business with us. See if they want to buy some of our, tooling products. I couldn't dial the phone. I couldn't make a single cold call back in the machine shop.
Oh, wow.
But I had so many of those things happen to me that I was angry and frustrated, and I would see bold people do stuff, and I would go like, why are they like this? How are they doing this? Why are they not telling themselves how much rejection hurts, right? How much, like why? And I just started to test things out. And then I started looking at my life and going, the times I made any sort of bold move, it paid off in some way, even if it just felt good, right? Or I made somebody feel good. And I said, I've got to start doing that, even though it makes me uncomfortable. But the trick is to also controlling the dosage, controlling the intensity of the experience. That's why you start by smiling at people, right? You don't start by, I'm going to go to the party, a party every night. I'm going to meet 30 new people every night, right? You're going to meet nobody, right? Because you haven't built the muscle yet. You're going to hide in the corner. You're going to hide in the bathroom. And so you start really simply and expand your comfort zone with these exercises so that you're doing something every day that is a bold move of some kind. And it could just be complimenting a stranger or talking to somebody in an elevator, or it could, the exercises get pretty crazy after a while, because I want you to really push some boundaries. I want you, putting headphones on and singing and dancing in front of a Starbucks, right? Badly.
Yeah. How crazy does it get? How crazy? So you actually have people go into Starbucks and dance, or what do you have people do?
Yeah, I mean, and you walk at the end of a movie, you stand up and shout, "I love that movie," or walk into a chocolate shop and just shout, "I love chocolate," right? Nobody's gonna throw a net over you, right? Mm-hmm. Then there's gonna be other people who go like, "Yeah, I feel the same way. I feel like that. I love chocolate too." I'm not going to yell it like you are, but I appreciate your enthusiasm. Mm-hmm. That's so. And when you do that stuff, you're learning. Nothing bad happens, and some people go like, "Wow, that was really nutty. I really enjoyed that." Mm-hmm. And so you're gonna find a way to push these boundaries by just going like, "Oh, yeah." If you've never sung karaoke because you have a shitty voice, sing karaoke, because guess what? 90% people who go sing karaoke, they hate the person with the really good voice, mm-hmm. right? Because it's a room full of people with average voices getting to sing their hearts out without being really great. So get up and suck, right? And go and pour it out there and just off key and bad, and then just wait for the applause, because it may or may not come, but you didn't die, and it's going to be, take an improv class, try stand up, join Toastmasters and start doing public speaking, whatever it is, push your boundaries and watch that muscle build, and realize the more you do it, the more you realize, wow, I'm actually getting better at this. I'm actually figuring out how to relax while I do this. And I talk about how to do that in the book too, how to prepare yourself, how to relax. Key insights that you can have. The biggest insight is that what we all are confused about is that we don't remember that most of the time people aren't thinking about us anywhere near as much as we think they are. Mm-hmm. They're thinking about themselves. They think about us for a nanosecond, and then they go back to their favorite subject themselves, right? And if they have a judgment about you, is it accurate? Do they actually know you? Then why are you worried about it? Do they know you at all? I mean, when people say like, "Oh, people are going to laugh," I just go, what people? Do you know them? Do they know you? Then what the hell are you worried about? And I know what you're worried about. You're worried about embarrassment, humiliation, whatever, like that. But embarrassment and humiliation are a choice. If I spill wine on myself at a dinner, I could go, "Oh no, man, I got to find a way to go change," or something like that. Or I just got to leave. That's so embarrassing. Or I could just say, "This is why my dry cleaner loves me." And everybody laughs. And you sit there with a wine stain the rest of the meal. Nobody cares. And you realize no harm, no foul, no nothing. I didn't have to be embarrassed, or I could have chosen to be. I could have chosen to be humiliated. You knock a glass over and for my next trick, I'm going to make a plate disappear onto the floor. It's like whatever. Mm-hmm. You don't have to take it on. It's a choice to take on the pain. And that's what hesitant and underconfident people like me did. And I still I'm growing in boldness all the time. I'm still coming up with new tests for myself to push the boundaries. But I've met, amazing people because of this that I would have never met, and had really great conversations with them. Athletes, movie stars, successful business people I really wanted to know, or at least have a little exchange with, or just thank them. Like if I see like a really great actor that's done movies that I really appreciate, I just want to say, that I really appreciate their work. And that's all I'm going to say. I don't need an autograph. I don't need, what they all say back? Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
All of
That's
them.
awesome. Can you tell us a story about
Yeah.
meeting maybe a celebrity, an athlete, and having a longer conversation with them because of it?
Yeah. Well, my favorite one really was with Tom Hanks.
Oh wow.
I ran into him and his wife. They were sitting in a restaurant in Santa Monica, waiting for their food. It was like a takeout cafe, and they were just sitting there. And it was at the time that he had just produced From the Earth to the Moon, that HBO series, that terrific series.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, excuse me, Mr. Hanks, I just wanted to tell you how much I'm enjoying From the Earth to the Moon. I said, I'm riveted. It's real. I really appreciate it. And I wanted to tell you that. And he goes, oh man, thank you so much. He said, it's such a labor of love. He says, I love hearing about this. And he said, like, and it turned into like, so what was your favorite part? So have you watched it all? Yes, I've watched it all. What did you like most? He just burst open because it was a labor of love. He was so passionate about it. And his wife, Rita, didn't go like, get away from this guy. She just was like, this is so great. My husband because I wasn't a drooling fan. I was like, hey, can you sign this? Or can we get a selfie together? That's bullshit. The selfie doesn't mean you know them. It means they were kind enough to take a picture with you. I want the experience. I want to know the guy, or I want to thank him. I ran into Titus Welliver in the airport, and we were going through security. And he was right in front of me, and I just turned to him and I said, Mr. Welliver, and he said, yeah. I said, it's just fabulous work you're doing on Bosch. I said, I'm really loving it. He goes, thank you so much. That's it. And he walked away. Mm-hmm. But I made his day because I wasn't a drooling fan. I didn't need anything from him. I just had a gift for him. Mm-hmm. And that's what I like to do. And that's what I recommend doing, is like, be the voice of upliftment wherever you can be. Make somebody feel better about themselves.
I would love to hear another story, maybe not athlete, just something about you being bold and how it worked out well for you.
Let me mine this crazy life.
Or how you went from being shy to jumping all the way to stand up, because I feel like that is a massive, massive leap. And for me, that's been the one thing that I've been too intimidated to do.
So I was gonna guess that you did the groundlings and stand up as a way to like challenge yourself. Was that how you got over? Like it was a challenge yourself?
Yeah, because this is what's true a lot of people, a lot of shy people, is we are afraid of something, and deep down it means we want to do it. It's like, I'm terrified to speak in public. It's like, so does that mean you want to do it? And you're just afraid of failing at it, so you don't want to try because then you'll fail, so you don't try, which parenthetically guarantees the failure, right? But it's like, it's too important. So I liked making people laugh, but I had a good friend who was a career comedian that I had met in an acting class. And he said, I know you want to do this, right? He says, I know you've done improv. He says, stand-up is different. Stand-up is you get up with all your own material, all by yourself, and you got to work the audience. And he said, everything you think you should be afraid of, you're wrong about. And once you do it, you'll know everything you're supposed to be afraid of. So that was the smackdown he gave me, right? That was the challenge. And so I wrote 3 minutes of material, went to an open mic night, and it's basically you just set yourself up. I call it letting the door lock behind you, right? You make a commitment that you can't get out of. You go to the comedy club, you sign up for the list. They call your name, you got to go on stage. And somebody has either been really funny or sucked right before you. So, and you just go up and you just let it fly. And you have to know that the odds are that you're going to bomb. And I didn't bomb. I did okay. But having done it was the transformational process. It was like, oh, it's not about funny jokes. It's about radiating unbridled confidence in your material. And not never blaming the audience if they don't laugh, right? Just go, that was so funny to me in the bathtub this morning. I don't know what happened, right? You take it all on yourself, right? And then they laugh, right? Because you were like, oh well, I just flew out a joke that didn't work at all. And then you go on to the next one. And then when you're done, you realize whether you killed it or you bombed, it's all over. It's gone. It's vapor. And that you're on to the next minutes, hours, and days of your life. It's all behind you either way. And that's almost the beauty of that art, is it's so ephemeral.
Jay, are you inspired? Are you going to do this now?
I mean, definitely not till COVID's over. I did one improv class at UCB Theater, and that was something I thought I wouldn't be able to do either, but I thought that was really cool. And I got a couple of laughs, and I felt good about it. So I felt like it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be.
Yeah, and I think that's a good lesson. Is we imagine everything to be much worse. What underconfident people are great at is imagining the worst. What's the worst case scenario? What we're terrible at is calculating the odds of that actually happening. Yeah. Whereas bold people, one, they don't worry about the worst case scenario, and two, they don't calculate the odds. They act, and whatever happens, happens.
And odds are you're never going to see those people ever again anyway.
That's it. If they hated you, they didn't write your name down and try to find your address so they could, firebomb your house. They've forgotten about you, right? And that's fine.
Was doing stand-up and improv transformative in the sense of like it got you to become a much bolder person going forward?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, the improv is beautifully designed because it starts at a nonverbal level, the training of it, and then you just work your way up and up and up till you learn to create scenes with people on stage, and it's a phenomenal confidence builder because once you do it, because there'll be time you'll just get in flow state sometimes, and you and two other people will just create this fabulous interchange, and it's just coming and coming, and all you're doing is being generous with each other and adding layers of it, and then it'll have a climax or some silly ending or whatever, but the whole audience is riveted because they know it's happening in that moment, that this was unprepared material that is just coming out. And when you do that, you go, when you have prepared material after that, you go, oh, well, this is easy. I have content to work with, right? I know what I'm going to say. And what I tell people is the beauty of being really prepared for a lecture or anything, or even stand-up, is that's the foundation for being spontaneous. The great comedians go on stage sometimes with 2/3 of a joke, hoping to find the punchline on stage. And the energy of performing and the tension of everything and the feedback from the audience allows them to come up with that better punchline, or to tag that joke with one more thing that makes it even funnier. And that's the foundation of preparation that allows you to explore possibilities, because it's your confidence foundation. It's your base to launch from and try stuff. And then, because you can always go back to it, stand-up guys do this all the time. They have their solid winner material, right? Their killer stuff, and in the middle of it, they're rolling out a new joke here, and if it hooks, then they run with it. They try to follow it. If it dies, they swing back to their core material and get the audience again, and then they try something else. I mean, I was young enough actually to watch Pryor.
Oh wow!
Build his last act after he had set himself on fire. I was watching him at the Comedy Store, and he was there building his act that was eventually going to be an HBO special. And it was fascinating to watch him play with the material and test it out and see what people would react to. And he was amazing on stage, because he could once he got something by the tail, he could really run with it. It was great. So, and you learn from watching people like that. So
yeah, it's interesting when you watch them also, because you see an HBO special and you're like, wow, that's so amazing. Like, and everything's so natural. And you're not thinking the whole time, this guy's rehearsed this bit for the last year. He's done this bit like 150 times in front of an audience. He has it so down from so much practice.
Yeah, I go to the Comedy Cellar a lot in the city, and I've seen famous comedians walk in, like Aziz Ansari, and he's practicing his new special, and you see like what I saw and then what ended up on the special, and it'll be 90% there, but he's tweaking the lines and looking for the audience reaction and making a couple things a little better. It's interesting seeing that process.
Yeah, well, that's with Chris Rock. Whenever he's building a show, he's rolling into Caroline's or someplace like that at 1:30 in the morning, unannounced, and he's trying out 15 or 20 minutes worth of stuff, and some of it's just terrible, right? He's just like feeling his way, and it's like, nah, I thought there was something here, but there's not something here. And then there's other stuff like he starts to feel it, and people will laugh. You need the audience. You need that. What's funny to people, it's what's funny to us a lot of times is funny to us, and it stops there. So it's really knowing that these creatives create by a series of failures until it gets better, and they don't fear the failure. They embrace it. They go like, this is my stairway up. So
yeah, I've seen Dave Chappelle.
It's a great transition.
And he has a guy who sits in the back, and he watches the audience the entire time, and he writes down the audience reaction for every joke. He doesn't watch Chappelle at all. I found that interesting too.
Oh, that's really interesting.
Yeah, because a lot of times you can't pay attention to the crowd as much.
So should Jay just? I guess the idea basically he should just sign up for an open mic night, or is there steps you should take before that?
I think Jay's ready for prime time. I think, he's done enough podcasts. I think he needs to subject himself to an open mic. The thing is, there is nothing like it. It's like an African safari. There's nothing in the world like it. There's no comparison to it. Getting up in front alone with your material and trying to make a room full of people who are there to laugh, right? Laugh. It's absolutely great. It's great even if it's a self-immolation, because it's over and you go, wow, I bombed mercilessly, and I can't wait to do it again, because I can do it better. I know what I can do. I know what I did wrong, and then you'll try it again. And it's like everything. You'll get a little better, and you'll find out what your comic persona is, which takes time. Stand-up it has to be, and this is the other difference between stand-up and improv. Improv, you're creating characters and stories. Stand-up is you. It's just an enhanced or amplified version of you. You're not somebody else necessarily.
Unless you're Larry the Cable Guy.
That doesn't work. So.
Yeah, what'd you say, Jay?
I said, unless you're Larry the Cable Guy, that's a completely made up character.
Yeah.
That was a popular character.
Yeah, it had its moments, but it was trying to but that was more of an improv thing. That was I'm going to create a character that works through something. It's like Robin Williams doing Mork versus doing Robin Williams on stage.
Mhm.
Do you? So what coming up for you in your life? Do you have certain things you're like, here are the next bold steps I want to take?
Uh, yeah, well, I mean, the bold move for me is to create a 2-day workshop, interactive workshop for Super Bowl, to get people in a room for 2 days and see how far along I can get them, by challenging them, teaching them the principles of the book, and then probably releasing them on Friday night into the wild, and then seeing what happens and have them when they come back Saturday morning, they tell me about it, and then keep working them through more and more stuff. That's the big thing for me. And the bold move is to just find my way onto, bigger and bigger podcasts. I mean, I'm almost at the zenith now because I'm on your show here.
It's only downhill.
Obviously.
But there's a couple. Yeah, there's a couple more guys and women still. Tim Ferriss maybe, and Rogan, and Brene Brown, and maybe Oprah. So after you guys, I gotta aim higher. That's what you've done to me by
Well,
putting me on the show.
just tell Rogan you were on our show. You'll get right on next week.
It's easy.
All right,
Easy.
good.
Um,
I look forward to that attempt, that bold attempt.
Yeah, no, you just tell them I was on Brink of Sanity. I'll be on. I'm coming on Thursday. I'm gonna come to the studio. I know he wants me on, and he wants me in person. So,
Yeah. So, what else can we explore here in life?
yeah. Well, actually, what else? What's COVID been like for you? Because COVID's a time when, at least in the beginning of it, everyone was kind of like, everyone had to buckle down, like stay home, weren't seeing a lot of people, and you're someone bold. I guess, what's COVID been like for you? What's your COVID story been like?
So, it was actually a time to really narrow focus. I was dating a girl long distance. And it was really just starting, and she was in New York and I was in LA, and then COVID hit and it just ended it. So I basically entered COVID without a girlfriend. And so I had a fairly massive amount of time by myself. I wasn't living with anybody. So I finished this book and got it edited. And I finished a fiction book that I had been working on for years. And I really learned I took a course on how to get in flow state and all of that, the dynamics of that. And I've learned how to do that, and which really amplifies your capability exponentially in those concentrated time.
What is flow state?
Flow state is when your mind and your body and your energy are all focused on what you're doing right at this moment. Very much probably what you guys get into when you do these podcasts. You're not thinking about anything else. You're just like in this moment. When the interaction on the show, or just between you two guys, is really rolling, that's flow state. But it's also when you're working on a project, and there's a timelessness to it. There's a semi-euphoric quality. You almost feel like stuff is coming to you. They used to call it the muse and stuff like that, artists. But stuff just comes to you, and you can create this. You can create the environment for doing this on a daily basis. And there's all of these dynamics around it, how you go into it, how you come out of it, how you support it, how you protect it. And once you learn how to do that, you can be staggeringly productive in 90 minutes or 2 hours, more than people are in 2 or 3 days, sometimes even in a week, and sometimes never. They never go deep enough, because we live in a world of insane distraction, right? We have notifications and emails and texts and multiple screens going on, and white noise everywhere, and people looking for our attention in all sorts of ways. And we've given ourselves ADD, basically. And when you shut, the difference between shutting 80% off of that stuff and 100% is not 20%, it's 5x. works. That's the difference. You can be 5 times more productive if you shut 100% of that stuff out and dive deep and don't let anything distract you. And
It's
challenge yourself. You have to work you have to challenge yourself as you do this. So there's all of these levers and things you're doing to yourself, but it's an amazing thing to learn how to do.
I was just saying, you said like we're like an ADD society, and like the most popular app these days is TikTok, which is all about having ADD. Like the entire purpose of this app is I need to change what I'm watching every like 30 seconds. It's kind of amazing how we do this to ourselves.
Well, and I tell people, like, if you're going to be a business person or anybody who wants to get really good at something, this whole thing, this short-term attention span stuff, it works to your advantage because nobody else can focus. So if you figure out just how to focus, you will far surpass most of the people that you would be trying to compete with, because they can't focus. They'll let anything distract them. They can't even look across from somebody without at least thinking about what might be on Instagram right now. So it's a very powerful thing to be able to do in a world of noise and distraction.
What is the secret to cutting out the last 20%, the 20% that distracts you? How do you do that?
It's you got to learn how to use your devices. You got to literally shut things off. Everything has to be off. Not, I'm gonna still need to check email. No, you're not. Nothing happens if you don't check email for 90 minutes. I went 4 days without any electronic communication. I was on a vision quest with these guys, and we did a little, some chemicals, but we handed over our phones and watches for 4 days. We had no access to. We didn't even know what time of day it was. Not because of what we were taking, but because we didn't have watches. So.
I would love to hear more about the Vision Quest, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Where did you do this, and is this like peyote? What do you take?
We did a thing called a combo, KAMBO, which is a frog toxin.
Okay.
And we were going to do mushrooms, but we got it was men, so it was 12 guys, and we got so much into this very deep issue processing with each other that we didn't even we got so deep into the night that our spirit guide said, look, he says, I'm in charge of everything here. He says, it's too late for us to do mushrooms. He says, this is what you were supposed to be doing, was this right now. So we're not going to do it. And everybody was fine with it because we had gotten so much out of it. But a lot of any of these chemicals is to just sort of, and it's all plant medicine that we're doing. We weren't doing any, we didn't have a mountain to blow or something like that we were all dipping into. It's to sort of, to break you out of your set world pattern and perception, and to realize that, like, the universe is way more vast and complex and unusual, and your connection to it is much more intertwined than you thought possible, and that you can peel yourself open and really discover and change yourself. So there were guys who revealed some very, very powerful things. And of course, it is absolute omerta. Nobody ever talks about anything. I can't even say there was a guy who'd said this. That's actually, we agreed not to do that. So.
Okay, so it wasn't, so people got, you have to tell what they were saying, but like people got very, very open and honest about like things it was not, we're having fun. It's more, we're talking about very serious things in our lives, and we're very open about it.
Yeah. Well, all right. Well, I'll this is getting very, very heavy here, but every one of us stood up and said the worst thing we've ever done.
Okay.
And knowing that it was incredibly revealing and somehow safe among all of these guys, and what we all, along with really working through that, we all and in that, okay, I can tell you the way nobody is allowed to comment either positively or negatively about what you offer about that, right? They can't go, oh well, that's not that bad, or you shouldn't feel that bad about, or at least you got it out and you're trying to fix it. You don't get to say any of that.
Mm-hmm.
They just get to say it, and then when it's your turn, you say whatever you want, and nobody has to say anything. And it doesn't have to be the worst thing that they've ever done. It can be whatever they feel like they have to talk about it in the moment. But what you come away with, along with your personal process, is that nobody should be judged by the worst thing they've ever done.
This is a group of people you know well, or is this you met?
I only knew 2 of the 12 people.
Oh wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you and you said this was 4 days long?
Yeah.
So beyond
And
what
we were sleeping outside by a river near Sacramento. So
does the
Sounds
frog?
awesome.
So you said it's like a frog toxin or chemical. Does that last for 4 days, or do you keep taking it, or how does that?
no. It only lasts for a couple of hours.
Okay.
And it's
Okay.
and it's really just it creates a very powerful emotional release.
Okay. So
that's very different for everybody. So
the rest of like the first day you take it, everyone becomes much more open, everyone's much closer, and then day 2, 3, and 4, you're not on anymore.
well, no, and it's all, and they were all different things, right? And and one of the things that the spirit guide did was he could see that people were holding back, and one of the 2 of the guys was complaining, going like, I'm not really getting what I wanted out of this, right? And he was like, I don't get that you're fully committed. Because they were looking for him to make the magic happen. It's like, no, you got to make magic happen. So he said, we're gonna the best thing we can do is something physical. And he put on all of this boxing gear, and he took on all 12 of us one at a time to punch at him till, and he had the boxing pad, right, that you hold. And you basically, what you did is you punched yourself to exhaustion. You punched at him until you couldn't raise your arms, basically till you like fell down. And it was, and everybody, and everybody's cheering you on as you do it. And you find that you could go more and more. And I was the first one who went, and I was, the oldest guy there, oddly enough. And I punched till I couldn't raise my arms, and he just looked at me and went, "Is that all you got, old man?" And he whacks me in the head with the pad. So I come back swinging, right? And it's like, and you realize you got more and more and more, and then everybody did it, and it was, that was a transformational moment for everybody as we sort of broke through that, but by the physical exhaustion created the emotional release. So
you recommend Jay taking the frog toxin on the show?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Jay, what sounds you scarier, or what sounds scary to you? Doing stand up or doing the Vision Quest?
I think stand up. I drank 2 40s and then did a podcast, so I feel like the frog toxin will be easy after that because I don't remember anything from that episode.
The blackout episode.
Yes. Literally titled Blackout.
Episode 40, even though that wasn't the sequence, right?
Yeah. So when is your fiction novel coming out?
That's in re-editing because I wrote it as a trilogy, and then somebody explained to me that no first author gets a trilogy published. So that was bad news. And so I'm doing one of 2 things. I'm doing 2 things simultaneously. I'm trying to pitch it as a miniseries while I'm also having an editor friend of mine try to compress it all into one novel because I can't shrink it. But he said, look, I'll chop the heck out of this and I'll turn it into 350 pages. So That's phase 2, but it's a time travel novel, and I'm really excited about it. So
What's the
I
basic
want to
premise?
get that done too.
What's the basic premise of it?
The basic premise is that most time travel doesn't deal with the basic problems of time travel, like where are you going to sleep, what are you going to eat, what are you going to use for money, what's it like to be a stranger, how do you speak the language. If you go back 100 years, you're going to have tons of language problems, even if you go back in English, and you're going to be the stranger. We kill strangers generally as going back a couple hundred years. And so and then it was, where would somebody go if they couldn't really change everything, like save JFK or somebody like that, or Martin Luther King or whatever. What if that was out of their control? What would they go do to observe and maybe influence that would be on a much more personal level? What would they want to experience? And then maybe what would be the more personal event, like somebody in their family or something like that they would want to go back and see or help. And then what, in the end, what would they want to be part of the most in history and be able to witness it and survive?
That sounds great.
Sounds fascinating.
Yeah.
Well, we're excited to read that. Jay?
Yeah, so unfortunately, we're almost out of time. Had a blast. Seriously, it was really great having you on the show.
Can you come back on after Jay does stand up?
Oh hell yeah, we will tear that apart. We'll have to insert clips of it, of course. But yeah, there's you must video it. Of course, you must have a video of it.
Can we video and play on the show, Jay? We'll do that.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
And Fred will judge you.
Yeah, yes, as gently as possible, but with a certain amount of sarcasm and mockery.
Wouldn't be Brink without it. Yes.
But yes, it takes real boldness to watch a video of yourself performing, whether it's whether you're just doing a lecture, or you guys probably, if you watch your first 3 or 4 episodes or whatever, it's kind of painful, right? It's like, what the hell are we doing? Why are we saying this? Why are we not saying that? What's going on? And it's so, unless you guys came out perfect out of the womb, I don't know.
At one point, I actually pulled the first 2 episodes, and it took me about 100 episodes to actually put them back up. I thought they were that bad, so I know what you're saying.
I know for me.
Yeah, well, even
I was gonna say, for me, if anyone ever wants to get government secrets out of me, all they need to do is play the show and hear my. If I hear my voice, I'll tell anything. I just can't bear to hear it.
Well, you guys are so much fun. I can't wait to come back on. I can't wait to see Jay's act, and I think we'll enjoy it, and we'll pull it apart, and then he's going to have to go again.
I've actually written about 5 minutes, so I just got to wait for things to settle down for me to do it.
Okay. The post-Omicron, Jay is up on stage.
So
beautiful.
Everyone get Fred Joyal's book, Super Bold, From Underconfident to Charismatic in 90 Days. You have a number of books, right? You wrote 2 other books?
Yeah, those are for the dental industry. Those are marketing books. So this book is available on Amazon, in Audible, in Kindle, and in hardcover. And you can go to my website, fredjoyal.com, download the first chapter. If you read the digital version, you can download a PDF of the exercises from my website as well. So, because I want you to have a hard copy of the exercises, because you got to do them. It's not about reading the book.
And if you're out there and you're like, I don't need this book, then you're a liar, because everyone needs to be a little more bold. So this sounds like a great book, great exercises. It's been a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so much for coming on our show.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Have a great day.
You too. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
My love. Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye. It's all over. Goodbye. It's time to go. This is the end. Say goodbye. You better go away.
Just